Troy Benjamin Polamalu, small and safety who for 12 years wreaked absolute havoc on NFL offenses while at the same time having the greatest head of hair you've ever seen on a human. So if you're watching this video, that either means you're a Steelers fan who prays to a shrine of St. Troy before you go to bed, or like me, you have vivid memories of this guy absolutely destroying your Sunday when he flies over the top of the fucking line and destroys a play before it's even going to happen, like he knew what was going to happen beforehand, like a fucking fortune teller. Troy Benjamin Polamalu was born April 19, 1981 in Garden Grove, California. He's the youngest of 5 kids. His dad unfortunately dipped when he was a kid because I'm assuming he looked at the 5 offspring he had like that's a lot of fucking shampoo, I can't afford that. When Troy was a kid, he went up to stay with his aunt and uncle up in 10 Mile, Oregon. And after spending a few months in Oregon, he called his mom and was like, "Hey, you know how California fucking sucks? Yeah, I'd rather stay up here." And his mom looked around, was like, Yeah, no, go ahead. You can stay up in Oregon. Now, I might be paraphrasing. I don't know exactly how the conversation went, but being as how I am from Oregon, I'm guessing that's how it went. Troy lived with his aunt and uncle for 9 years and described his uncle as being a bit of a hard ass. He absolutely crushed it his senior year on the football field as well as the baseball and the basketball court. His senior year, he rushed for 1,040 yards, 22 touchdowns, 310 reception yards. On defense, he had 65 tackles, 8 interceptions, and was invited to the Super Prep All-Northwest team. A little bit of an Oregon legend on that one. After a senior like that, Troy was wanted by a bunch of D1 schools. He ended up choosing the University of Southern California, and he said, and I quote, "I believe God named me Troy for a reason," which he said right before he signed with the Trojans. It's not my Oregon Ducks, but respect where respect's due. So when Troy got to college, his first year didn't really do a whole lot. He ended up only getting 12 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. When Troy became a sophomore, that's when he started making noise. That's when he got into games a whole lot more often, and he had his best game, unfortunately for me, against my Oregon Ducks, where he had 13 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and an interception against my Ducks. Wasn't enough that he had to kick my ass in the regular season whenever I'm watching him play the Cowboys, but no, he has to beat the shit out of the Ducks too. Troy's junior year is when he started making a name for himself. He really crushed it. I have a whole list of accomplishments here, but let's just do the highlights. He was named the team captain. Against Washington, he had 13 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and an interception that ended up being a 22-yard touchdown. He led the team in tackles for 6 straight games, and the one game where he didn't lead the team in tackles and broke his streak, he ended up making the game-winning pick 6. USC ended up going to the Las Vegas Bowl. Troy had 20 tackles. He was named an All-American and the MVP for USC. So I think the NFL scouts might have had their eye on this fucking guy. His senior year, shocker, Troy did Troy things. He ended up being the first USC Trojan to be a 2-time All-American since 1992. Went to the Orange Bowl. Unfortunately, Troy hurt his hamstring in the Orange Bowl, so might have hurt his draft stock a little bit moving forward, but we'll get to that in a second. Troy finished his college career with 278 tackles, 29 tackles for loss, 6 interceptions, 4 blocked punts, and 3 touchdowns. I hate the Trojans, but Jesus Christ. So like I said before, Troy Polamalu hurt his knee in the warm-ups to the Orange Bowl, so he wasn't able to go to the NFL Combine. So he had to wait to the Pro Day to show what he can do to the NFL scouts. He really turned heads when he ran a 4.340. So like, okay, this flowy-haired Samoan sumbitch can fucking move. So the day of the draft, things got interesting. Troy was projected to be a late first round, early second round pick. Pittsburgh initially was going to sign Dexter Jackson to fill a hole they had at safety, and they were thinking about drafting a running back. Dexter Jackson, who said he was going to sign with the Steelers, ended up going to the Cardinals. San Diego was another team in the draft that desperately needed a safety, so they decided to trade down to get Sammy Davis and Terrence Kyle. At this point, Pittsburgh's looking at the board and going, "We got that motherfucker out of USC yet? Okay, we need to make that happen." They traded from the 27th to the 16th pick, got the 16th pick from the Chiefs. At one point, the Chiefs weren't making good decisions, and they got Troy Polamalu 16th overall, which I think everybody knows ended up very well for Pittsburgh. Troy's rookie year in the league, he didn't really play all that much. His second year in the league is when he was named a starter, starting to do kind of Polamalu things, but he didn't really start doing Polamalu things till later on. But the highlight of his rookie year is when he picked off his former teammate Carson Palmer and ran it back for a pick 6, where not only did he pick off Palmer, but he ran him the fuck over. I mean, not only are you going to pick me, but you're going to fucking run me over in my own stadium into an end zone, dick. His third year is when he really started getting into himself and started doing the fucking Troy Polamalu things that we all fucking remember. Picked off Steve McNair, sacked David Carr 3 times. He had an NFL record 10 tackles for loss against the Texans. He was named first team All-Pro, where he had 73 solo tackles, 6 pass deflections, and 2 interceptions. This is also when he won his first Super Bowl against the Seahawks, where he had 5 tackles. At this point in his career, this is when all of us who aren't Steelers fans remember watching this son of a bitch just sniff out the play before there was even a hint of what was going to be, and he was just automatically in the right spot every time. You think of Troy Polamalu, you think of him just supermaning over the line, destroying the play before it happens, while you're sitting there going he's there, just grab his hair or something. Jesus. Which, side note, Polamalu did have his hair insured for $1 million in 2010 by Head & Shoulders when he started doing those fucking commercials. In Troy's 5th year in 2007, he became the highest paid safety at the time, signing a contract for $30.19 million with $15.37 guaranteed, and I think any team in the league would have been happy to pay that. There was also talk of them possibly trading him. Troy said, and I quote, "I did not want to be a player who jumped from team to team." This is also the year when the Steelers hired head coach Mike Tomlin to take over for the legendary Bill Cowher, who's retiring. Jesus Christ, Mike Tomlin has been with the Steelers since 2007. Absolute legend. I'm a Cowboys fan, and we just hired who the fuck knows because Jerry Jones hates us. Why couldn't we go get Mike Tomlin? I think he was trying to leave. He's been there for fucking 37 fucking years. Fuck me. God, I fucking hate Jerry Jones. His 6th year in the league started off a little bit rough. He got injured and missed training camp, but he came back and had one of his best seasons ever, where he was named to yet another Pro Bowl unanimously. Polamalu things. Oh, he had his career game against the fucking Cowboys again. God, I hate my life. He had 9 tackles, pass defense, and it got his 7th interception against Tony Romo, and I remember that game, and I was really unhappy about the end of it. So this was the year that the Steelers ended up facing Kurt Warner and the Cardinals in the Super Bowl. And so my dad is a hardcore Cowboys fan, which is the reason I'm a hardcore Cowboys fan. It's also the reason I'm depressed. But he holds a grudge against the Steelers still for beating the Cowboys in the Super Bowl in the 70s. So he was hardcore rooting for the Cardinals, so I was hardcore rooting for the Cardinals. And I remember vividly Larry Fitzgerald catching that pass, running untouched all the way to the end zone, putting the Cardinals up. His dad was up in the booth trying to fucking write his shit down because his dad was a sports writer and he couldn't show emotion, but you could tell he was like, "Son's gonna score the game-winning touchdown. This is so cool." And then the Steelers came back and won, so why do I do this to myself? 7th year is when the Madden curse got him. After that legendary Super Bowl, Larry Fitzgerald and Troy Polamalu were both on the cover of the Madden football game. And of course, if you're on the cover, you're gonna get fucked up. So Larry tore his MCL. It was out for most of the season. But when he came back his 8th year, he let everybody know he was not fucking done yet. He did crazy Polamalu things. He was named Defensive Player of the Week twice. He was an All-Pro for the 3rd time, ended with 63 tackles, 42 of them solo, 11 deflected passes, 7 interceptions, 1 sack, a touchdown, and was elected to his 6th Pro Bowl. He went to the Super Bowl this year, but this is when they lost to the Packers. The last few years of his career, he was still doing crazy Polamalu things. He was still winning Defensive Player of the Weeks. He was still going to Pro Bowls. He was still cementing his legacy as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, defensive player of all time. He was elected to his final Pro Bowl in 2013. His last game ever was in the wild card round against the Ravens, where he racked up 8 tackles and 1 QB hit for loss, where they unfortunately lost to the Ravens. In 2015, the Steelers gave Troy Polamalu an ultimatum. They said they were going to release him, but if he wanted to, they would trade him to the Titans, where his longtime defensive coordinator Dick LeBeau was going to be at, and he could finish his career over there if he wanted to play a few more years. Troy ended up deciding that he had done enough, he had cemented his legacy, he decided to retire in 2015. He retired with 770 tackles, 32 interceptions, 3 touchdowns. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer along with Reggie Wayne, and he was inducted in 2020. Apart from being an absolute menace on the field and just destroying offenses, and if you weren't a Steelers fan, you just hated seeing this guy. Everything I've read about this guy, every interview, every article, it just seems like he's just a genuinely good dude. Everybody loves him. He's always polite. Ended up becoming the representative for the NFL Players Association. So that is the career of Troy Polamalu, the safety who for 12 years was an absolute problem to every NFL offense, coming from Oregon, even though he played for USC, just while genuinely being a good guy in the process.